The season is just beginning, and the Golden State Warriors are already making moves behind the scenes with decisions that could completely change the trajectory of the franchise. On one hand, there's a confirmation of a contract that ensures the stay of a young prospect. On the other, there are hot rumors about a potential target who could transform the roster into something even more powerful. What does all this mean for the present and future of the Dubs? We'll analyze it in detail now. So go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell, because if you're a Warriors fan, you won't want to miss any updates. News 1. When you look at the Golden State Warriors today, in October 2025, you don't just see a team preparing for another NBA season. You see a franchise that still breathes a legacy of a dynasty, but at the same time feels the inevitable weight of time. Stephen Curry is no longer the electrifying kid who reinvented basketball. Draymond Green carries the scars of countless battles. And Klay Thompson is no longer the unstoppable shooting machine he once was. The Chase Center remains packed. Jerseys continue selling. But the question in the air is simple. Now, what's left of this team's future? In recent months, the Warriors' offseason revolved around an uncertainty that seemed to stall everything. What to do with Jonathan Kuminga, the explosive forward, seen as one of the keys to the transition between the old and new generation, was at the center of negotiations that blocked any other moves. Until finally, after much waiting, the hammer fell. A 2-year contract worth $48 million. A significant figure, but one that guarantees not just athletic talent, but a clear path for the roster. With that decision made, as if a domino had fallen, the rest of the moves began to happen. Al Horford arrived, despite still playing at a high level. Intelligence. D'Anthony Melton, still recovering from a serious knee injury, was brought in to strengthen the perimeter rotation. And Seth Curry, with a family shooting DNA, signed to increase the team spacing. In a matter of days, the anxiety gave way to a feeling that, finally, the board was set. But in Golden State, nothing is that simple. As soon as Kuminga's contract was finalized, another question gained attention: the future of Brandin Podziemski. A 21-year-old in the third year of a 4-season rookie contract, valued at $16.2 million in total, but now at a decisive moment. The team needs to decide whether to exercise the second option of his contract by the end of October, which would cost $5.6 million and represent a $3.6 million impact on the salary cap. On the surface, it might seem like an almost bureaucratic decision. For a franchise that has already dealt with contracts worth hundreds of millions, why hesitate to activate an option worth just over $5 million? But the NBA doesn't work on cold numbers alone. It works on balance, strategy, and perception of value. And Podziemski, although not yet a headline-grabbing name, has been proving himself an increasingly necessary player. Last season, he earned minutes and space in a rotation that isn't usually generous with rookies. He averaged 11.7 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 3.4 assists in 26.8 minutes per game. Solid production from someone who understands the game, knows how to find teammates, battles for rebounds despite his position, and has the confidence to take responsibility even when the ball seems to burn in others' hands. His style isn't spectacular, but it's efficient. If a comparison is needed, he resembles a taller, more versatile Tyus Jones, someone who can lead a second unit without compromise and provide extra energy when the starters need a breather. Interestingly, even with D'Anthony Melton arriving for the same position, Podziemski still has projected space in the rotation. After all, Melton is still recovering from a ligament rupture, and no one knows exactly what level of physical performance he will return to. Meanwhile, Podziemski is ready, has proven useful, and has already shown he can provide reliable minutes. Steve Kerr, who rarely wastes praise, made it clear after a recent practice what he thinks of the young player. BP had an incredible day today. He looks more balanced, more confident in his shots, avoiding the referees. Many players look good, but I'd say BP stood out. Word that echo in the locker room, because Kerr knows how to identify who can truly be part of the franchise's future. What's at stake here isn't just the next season, but how the Warriors will manage the delicate transition process. Keeping Podziemski under contract is cheap and strategic. He can continue growing alongside Curry, serve as a key sixth man, or even become trade currency mid-season if a more interesting opportunity arises. In all scenarios, logic points toward exercising the option. There's also an almost symbolic point. If Golden State decides to let go of BP now, the message sent is that the franchise is giving up too quickly on a player who has already proven his value. That's not the type of message a partially rebuilding team should send. On the contrary, activating the option shows patience, confidence, and long-term vision. Practically speaking, what can we expect from him in 2025 to 26? Somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes per game, contributing as a secondary playmaker, sharing duties with Seth Curry, and providing coverage when Steph rests. A useful player in small lineups, capable of spacing the floor if he improves his three-point shooting, currently around 33%, and who could even earn key moments if he demonstrates defensive consistency. The Warriors have always stood out not just for their stars, but also for how they've been able to develop talents that seem secondary. Jordan Poole was an example. Gary Payton, too, in his defensive role, too. Brandin Podziemski could be next. It's not about spectacle. It's about utility. Ultimately, when we look at the Warriors today, we see a roster that mixes past, present, and future in almost mathematical doses. Curry is still the heart. Kuminga represents the next step. And Podziemski could be the thread that ties it all together, providing balance in a team that has spent so much time at the extreme of brilliance. So, when the 2025-26 season starts and the ball rises at the Chase Center, remember, it's not always the big contracts or the biggest stars that define the trajectory of a franchise. Sometimes, it's a seemingly small decision, like activating a $5.6 million option for a young shooting guard forward, that determines whether the team still is gassed to compete in the present while building for the future. And maybe a few months from now, when the Warriors are battling another playoff series, we'll look back and realize the turning point was precisely this: the choice to believe in Brandin Podziemski. News 2. Imagine for a moment a scenario in which the Golden State Warriors, already known for defying the traditional rules of modern basketball, decide to take a bold step and target one of the Eastern Conference's most valuable pieces, Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat. The rumor came from Brett Siegel of Clutch Points and quickly started attracting attention because, let's be honest, it's not every day you hear that one of the NBA's best defenders could join Stephen Curry in San Francisco. The context couldn't be more interesting. The Warriors enter the 2025-26 season after deep changes to their roster. Jonathan Kuminga, who had seemed uncertain, was re-signed with a solid 2-year contract, ensuring his presence in the franchise's transition project. In addition, Al Horford arrived, a veteran of 1,000 battles. Seth Curry, bringing shooting and a legendary family name to the team. D'Anthony Melton, who, even returning from injury, promises energy on defense. And Gary Payton, too, once again wearing the blue and gold uniform. At first glance, it seems like a balanced roster, capable of staying competitive, especially since it still has a core formed by Curry and Draymond Green. And, according to some reports, even Jimmy Butler on the radar of recent moves. But Golden State has never been a franchise satisfied with good enough. The mentality here has always been to go further, to find the piece that can transform a competitive team into a championship team. And it's at this point that Bam Adebayo's name appears on the horizon. The Miami Heat center, a 3-time All-Star, is entering the final year of his 5-season contract, valued at $163 million. Starting in 2026-27, he already has a 3-year extension lined up despite still playing a high level, $160 million, which reaffirms the value the Heat sees in him. Last season, Bam averaged 18.1 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 4.3 assists, numbers that alone draw attention. But when combined with his defensive versatility, explain why he's seen as one of the league's most valuable players. Adebayo is not just a center. He's a playmaker, someone capable of taking on the responsibility of initiating attacks, serving as a central point in the half-court, very similar to the role Draymond Green played in the Warriors' best years. Imagine, for example, a lineup where Adebayo plays alongside Draymond. 2 defensive facilitators, capable of guarding multiple positions, initiating transitions, and at the same time creating offensive mismatches. It's almost as if the Warriors were looking at a 2.0 version of their own DNA, an enhanced Draymond who could carry the torch for the next few years. And here's the most fascinating detail. Adebayo is only 28 years old. That means if the Warriors would pull off this unlikely move, they wouldn't just have an immediate solution, but also a bridge to the future, a piece who could lead the post-Curry transition and keep the franchise relevant for years to come. Of course, it's not that simple. Adebayo has a strong connection with Miami, is a central piece of the culture created by Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, and there are no clear signs that he wants to leave. But the rumor emerges precisely as a strategic speculation. If one day Bam requests a trade, the Warriors want to be at the front of the line. It's the logic of not letting an opportunity slip by, even if the scenario seems distant. And if you think it would just be a luxury addition, it's worth reflecting on how technically fitting it would be. Adebayo could lead the defense, relieve Curry of heavier physical responsibilities, act as a secondary facilitator, and at the same time attack mismatches in the paint. He's not an elite shooter, but his mobility and tactical intelligence would open paths for hybrid lineups, including that famous small ball that has become the franchise's trademark. If this trade actually happened, we could be looking at a redesigned Golden State, more athletic, younger, and still with the same essence as always: ball movement, spacing, and suffocating team defense. Imagine Adebayo as a missing piece, the player capable of uniting two generations and keeping the team's competitive spirit alive. Perhaps the reality is that this trade never happens. Perhaps it's just another rumor amidst the whirlwind of speculation that marks the NBA every offseason. But the very idea of Bam Adebayo in San Francisco is enough to spark conversations, projections, and even dreams. Because at the end of the day, the Warriors have already shown the world that we should never doubt their ability to turn improbable scenarios into historic realities. And if one day this rumor becomes fact, who knows? We might witness the birth of a new era in Golden State. An era where the next face of the franchise isn't just a three-point shooter, but a versatile center, elite defender, facilitator, and silent leader named Bam Adebayo. So, folks, these two moves show that the Warriors are not just thinking about the present, but also carefully planning for the future. Between retaining the young prospect and the rumors of a star who could transform the team, the roster continues to shape itself to compete at a high level this season. And you, Dubs fans, what do you think about these decisions? Which of these moves has the most potential impact on the team? Leave your comment below. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed the analysis, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss any updates about the Golden State Warriors this season.